Hey guys, it's byscreenside, and today we're doing a little bit of a something different, and that is a tutorial video about building in The Sims 4. Um, I get questions quite a bit about just little build things here and there, and so I thought I would just kind of pull together a list of tips and tricks that really help me with building in The Sims 4, and hopefully some of this will help you out. It's not like a total basics video, like not as in like this is how you enter build mode, this is how you draw a room, etc. We're gonna go like a little bit deeper in than that. But I think that there will be some things in here that maybe could help you out if you're like at a medium level in terms of building. Um, you know, so yeah, let's get started. The first thing that I wanted to cover is cheats and uh, shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. Cheats that you really need for build mode. Of course, to open up your cheat console, you're going to hit Control Shift C, and the cheats we want are bb.move objects, if I can type it correctly. That's going to turn on the move cheat, move objects on. Some people do bb.move objects on, but I do not find that the on part is necessary. Another cheat that is not as necessary as move objects but can be helpful is bb.show hidden objects. Okay, and that's going to unlock items from the debug menu. This is not something that you're going to need all the time, but it's really helpful to know how to get in and access this menu. This is going to give you stuff that, that you don't use very often, that actually just show up in the game during animations, or for whatever reason, the Sims team did not make them accessible via regular build mode. So there's going to be a lot of like weird stuff in here. But I do find this to be really useful when detailing a build that maybe I have a little bit like of a budget situation on, because a lot of these debug menu items are free. And then also some things like this is the abandoned mine where that will take you into Forgotten Grotto. And if you place this, or like the tree from Willow Creek, that will get you into Sylvan Glade, or a fishing sign. These will actually all work on your regular home lot. So you can enter Forgotten Grotto from this, you can enter Sylvan Glade from this. You can, this will actually spawn fish. So if you want to maybe like spawn some fish in your pool and make like a makeshift sort of pond in your, just like that you want to make yourself, that will actually spawn fish, and there are a few different options. But the game, it doesn't have a description on the debug menu items, so it's kind of a, you gotta kind of trial and error it. There's the pond that you can find in the world. There are a few different ponds. Is that the same one? I don't know. But yeah. Oh, see, oh, there we go. Lots of different ones. And like it'll say, at least it'll say like uncommon, rare fish, not common, desert. So yeah, there's a few different options. A lot of cool stuff in the debug catalog. Things that you would normally unlock through skills or find out in the world. So that's a handy little trick that I like to use. And then also, to get those items to show up, just type debug in the search. They'll kind of show up under certain categories, like, so I've gone to, the miscellaneous decorations in kitchen, and normally you wouldn't see these plaques, or the mounted fish, or the bugs from outdoor retreats, frogs, stuff like that. You normally wouldn't see these. These are all just unlocked because we have the debug cheat turned on. So, yeah. And then the last one is bb.enable free build. And this is really only going to be useful later on when we get to talking about building in secret worlds. But I just wanted to cover those cheats are going to be the ones that we will be using in this tutorial, and then a couple of keyboard shortcuts. Now, uh, this is particular lot's very frustrating because it wants to move the camera around because of this tree. Sorry about that. Of course, we've got the G key will toggle the grid on and off. And if we have multiple levels, you can use page down or page up to cycle between them. And then the T key will take you into a bird's eye view. That's T like in tango. And I think this one is especially useful when I'm trying to figure out what the floor plan of a house is going to be, where the bathrooms are, where the bedrooms are, etc. So I can make sure to plot out a hallway where I can, the Sims can enter the rooms from the hallway unless maybe it's an ensuite bathroom or something that I only want accessible from within the room. But this really helps this T key, this view, this particular view, and you just hit T to turn it back to the regular camera. Now, speaking of the camera, this kind of goes into the second part of what I was going to talk about, and that is the Sims 4 versus the Sims 3 camera. Now, I'm a weirdo, and I tend to use the Sims 4 camera, but there are some limitations with the Sims 4 camera. So, free rotation is a big one. You cannot free rotate items with the Sims 4 camera. At least, not that I've been able to figure out. You must be in the Sims 3 camera. Now, you can toggle between Sims 3 and Sims 4 camera by hitting Control-Shift-Tab, and you will be in the Sims 3 camera. So you can't get this sort of eye-level view in the Sims 4 camera in build mode, and you can't free rotate objects. And free rotation is definitely an important thing to know. And I see a lot of tutorials where they don't mention, because most people actually use the Sims 3 camera from what I've noticed, but they don't always mention that you have to be in the Sims 3 camera to get this to work. So you have to hold down Alt, and then you can rotate the objects freely as opposed to just on. So if we're back in the Sims 4 camera, you can hold down Alt all you want, but it's not going to rotate. So in order to get it to rotate, you have to be in Sims 3 mode. Let me make sure I'm in the right one. Yeah. Sims 3, please. Thank you. There we go. And then, yeah, so you select the item, hold down Alt, and then hold down your left mouse button, and twist. Okay? Alt, hold down the mouse button, and twist. You can also shout if you want to. That won't affect the rotation of the object, but it is an option if you want to do that along with twisting. Haha, I made a joke. It was funny. Alright, moving on. Let's see. I have notes here. What's the next thing on my list? So we talked about Sims 3 versus Sims 4 camera, free rotation. Oh yeah, sizing up objects or sizing them down. So if you want to make something all big and stuff, you hit the shift bracket and it's going to size up the item. And this will go outrageously huge. Mine's not sizing up right away. Let me get something else it's not wanting to show the size up until I move an object, but yeah. So we can get a great big flowers flower bush or a great big chair. And if you get something and it's too big, then you can size it back down with the other bracket. So, and sometimes it does not want to show up until I move the item, but that does work. So that is how you size up and size down. So it's going to be shift left bracket to size down, shift right bracket to size up. Cool? Okay, cool. Moving on. So to raise and lower items, we have these lovely little shelves in the game, and a lot of the clutter items lock to the shelves automatically. Well, a few of them. So this box of tissues, for example, or the stack of books, or the salt and pepper. But not everything does lock to the shelves on their own. That one does. Now I gotta figure out what doesn't. What does not? These don't. Okay, so we're going to lift these up. You have to have the Move Objects sheet already enabled, and then hold down Control and hit the 9 key. And you have to hit it repeatedly until it gets to the level that you want. Then you're going to slide it on back onto the shelf, and there you go. Now, another little tip here is when you're working with, say, like a little tabletop or even a countertop, these do have slots on them. So the game is going to try and place the clutter in certain spots. And this is also a good reason not to turn on debug until I usually wait to the end of the build to add any debug items because there's a lot of extra stuff to scroll through. But okay, so we have a slot here, and it's going to automatically it's not going to let you really freely place the item. It's going to try and put it in a spot. And so you can get sort of inorganic looking arrangement of certain objects if you're trying to put them all. This one doesn't necessarily look so bad, but see, so we can actually take out, let's remove this stuff. I don't want to, oh, did I mention to lower the object back down, you're going to hit Control 0. So I don't think I mentioned that. So 9 to lift, 0 to lower. Alright, so yeah, so we've got this deal here where it's going to try and find a specific slot for these items to go. So if you want to sort of freely arrange them without having to worry about the slot, then you have to move the item that you are looking to place the clutter on. I'm terrible at speaking. Place the clutter on and then move the object back. And this will help you make everything look like it's arranged a little bit more naturally than just on the slots that the game wants to put out there. And because you've got the Move Objects cheat on, they'll just stay on this level without snapping back to the ground. So if you don't have Move Objects on, then they're going to see it's trying to snap again. So I have to move it, move the table, and then place the table back under it, and you're good to go. So if if you have several counters, for example, let's get all rid of all this stuff. Then you might have to move a couple of counters out of the way because it might try to snap onto the nearby counter. See, so this, I haven't moved it far enough away. It's still trying to snap, so it's not going to want to let me do it. But here, it's going to let me place it specifically where I want, which is back a little bit further. Oh, see, now I have to move this, and I'm going to let this move like so it's against the wall, and then this item like so it's right up next to it. Yeah, okay, and then I can put the counters back. And then you can arrange like a whole bunch of items without it trying to snap to the countertops. So I find that very handy. Okay, floor tiles. This one actually eluded me for a while. I had to go looking it up to figure out how to do this eventually. But if you want to display quarter tiles, meaning like this, so you can get angles, diagonals, things like that, you're going to hit Control F. So you can hit Control F to restore it and Control F to bring it back. This will not work if you have by room selected. So you can hit Control F all you want and it's not going to do anything. You have to have by tile selected. And then you can make all kinds of really fun, cool patterns on your floor. So if you get kind of tired of the patterns that we already have, you can be really creative with it. And I've seen a lot of really cool builds where different folks get very creative with this, and I definitely recommend it, especially if you're just tired of all the options that we already have. It's a big help. And then you can also make entranceways. You know, if you don't want just a straight entrance into the house that's just straight like that. You can like sort of funnel it out using the Control F option. Control F, and then kind of make a angled pathway. So you want it to maybe go out a little bit like that. Cool? Cool. Okay. Okay, open basements. This question I have been asked more than any other question because my grandma's house build has a big open basement on the front of it. And this is how you do that. Whoops. We didn't mean to bring that back. There is this really awesome basement tool. And so I really like this because if you're working from above and you want to make sure the basement fits directly beneath, because if you just go down to the basement level, whoops, what, can I get rid of this, please? Game, please, thank you. Maybe not. All right. Okay. Oh boy, we went way back. Okay. So, go away. All right. So we build a room up here, and then we go down to this level, and we don't necessarily know precisely if it lines up. Like, you can try and eyeball it, but see how far off I was. So, if I go up to this level and use the basement tool, I can just perfectly get a basement directly beneath this floor, and then add a staircase in, and I know for sure it's going to line up. So that's handy. But in this particular instance, we're going to open up the basement to the upper level. So the way that you do that is you have to go down to the basement level first and select the room. Then you're going to go up here, and this is where it gets a teeny bit tricky. You have to click on this yellow line. If you click here, it's going to deselect the room. If you click anywhere outside of it, it's going to deselect the room. So you have to get right on the yellow line, and the game is kind of picky about this. And then you're going to click Remove Ceiling. And there you go. You have an open basement. It's really simple once you get the clicking on the yellow part down. But that's all it takes. Another thing I get asked about quite a bit, or a little bit, is roofing. Now, roofing, I can't really do a roofing tutorial, to be honest, because the thing about roofs is they're going to be different just depending on the shape of the house every time. So I can show you a couple little tips and tricks though that you can use to help you shape your roofs. And honestly, getting good at roofing, which I don't even think that I am particularly that fantastic with it, but it's really a lot of practice and trial and error to get it correctly. And one thing I really, or get it down correctly, I don't know, to get it to be good at it, like I'm not with talking, but I recommend actually going onto the gallery and finding builds that you think are really cool and breaking them down and looking at how the roof has been constructed. That was really helpful to me when I was learning to build, and still helps me just to kind of see what other people do, kind of see what their techniques are. It's really a tip, or it's really a big tip that I would give. But anyway, I've gotten ahead of myself. So, of course, we have our different roof shapes. We've got the gabled roof, hip roof, half gabled roof, half hipped roof. Woo! And so most of the roofs, pretty much all the roofs, are going to have the same basic controls. So you can make them wider using this arrow. You've got one on each side to pull in and out, to make wider or thinner. And then these little arrows right here are going to help you adjust the eaves. So you can make those really long, or you can make them nice and short, or you can hold down the shift key, select the arrow, and make it asymmetrical. So you only need to extend one side of the eaves, then you can do that. You can actually isolate them by side. So just hold down shift and pull on that arrow. To make a roof taller or shorter, you're going to use this up arrow above everything. And if you hold down Alt as you do this, you will get actually a little bit more fine tuning. If you're not holding down Alt, it's going to kind of give increments that the game has, but if you use Alt, you can really finely, smoothly tune it. And then, of course, we have the little circles, the little orbs. I'm trying to avoid saying balls. The orbs here will help either make them curved inward if you push down, or outward if you pull out. So that will help you determine the roof size and shape. And that's how you adjust and work with roofs. If you go into the build menu here and select roof trims, you can apply different sizes and colors of trims. I pretty much use white, and most of the time I use the next to largest. Yeah, so sometimes if I want the build to be a little bit more cartoony, I will go with the whiter one. And occasionally I might use like a darker one. It just depends on what color the exteriors are. I don't usually use the thin ones, the really small ones or the angled ones, stepped or angled. And you will get a little bit of a trim if you click down lower on the roof, but I don't use that one very much. Only if there's a really noticeable gap. Sometimes if I've painted it a certain color, then the gap kind of stands out like this. I don't necessarily like the look of that, so I might take like a darker one, or as close to that shade as I can get, which is not very close because I picked a weird color, but you can kind of put that there. And of course this is going to give you your roof texture, so there you go. So that's roofing. Again, there are some really cool roofing tutorials out, and I am going to link to some really cool ones that I found. I wouldn't try and recreate those tips because the person who made those videos like painstakingly figured out like the measurements to make certain roof shapes that we just don't have in the game. And while I might use those tips, I wouldn't recreate them in my own tutorial. So I will link those in the description box for you to go check them out if you're interested in making like conical roofs, like cone-shaped ones. There are some really cool ones there. And like I said, they went through the trouble of figuring out how to do it and just how to measure it out perfectly. And so yeah, I wouldn't claim those for my own or use them in my own video. The next thing I want to touch on are floor trims and freezes. Now, freezes apply to ceilings. So that's this little bit here. And these are really great for, now you have to be at least a medium wall height for these even to come open options in your options. But once you have the medium selected, you can go in and apply a freeze. Freezes will apply to ceilings, but there are also exterior trims. You're not going to have the options for those unless there's a floor to apply them to, and you can't apply them to the bottom floor of a build. You can only apply like a foundation to the bottom floor of the build. So if you don't want a big heavy fancy freeze, but you do want some sort of a trim between the first floor and the second floor, you can build a room and then you'll have the option to apply the floor trims. And if you want one, you don't have to have it on medium either. The thing that's nice about the freezes is if you're at medium level and you apply one, it takes up so much of the space that even if you have a short level on the second floor, like the short walls, they will actually kind of appear basically the same height because of the way the frieze is so heavy. But yeah, no, if you want to apply a floor trim, you can apply both, but the frieze is gonna overlap the the trim. All right, back to Sims 4 camera, and if you want one at the top of the house, sometimes I will build and realize that I want a trim along the top of the house, but I've already built the roof. So just go down to this level and bring the walls completely down, and then you can build a floor. You don't have to have a full room, just a floor, and then you can apply a trim to it. There has to be a floor on that level to apply a trim. I wouldn't be able to apply it if I didn't have the floor. See, so it won't go. It won't let me do it. So if I have that floor, it will let me do it, and that's great. And there are a couple different options, ones that are a little bit thicker, a little bit more detailed. So it just depends, obviously, on what type of build it is that you're doing. But I really like to use floor trims and columns to add more detail to my builds. And I find that it's very useful. If you want to put a column on line the second level of a build, sometimes they can be a little bit fussy. So make sure your grid is turned on and it's on the level that you want to place the column on. And if it's wanting to like drag your column down and you're having trouble getting it placed, like for example here, it might not want to, it's letting me do it right now, but if you're having trouble with it, place a column on the inside and then use the eyedropper to just copy one from that level. I find if I copy a column that's already on that level, it's not as fussy with me about trying to bring it back down. So it's cooperating really well right now, but that's not always the case. So if you run into trouble, that can be really helpful. Goodbye, roof. Oh, and I also will just select stuff and sell it as opposed to sledgehammering it sometimes, just because sledgehammering can be such a mess. So, yeah. Okay, last but not least, we're going to cover building in like special areas. So I'm with my sim Breeze and we are on Sixum, and so I'm not even sure where I know that there's a building spot on Sixum. So we're going to go bb.enable free build like we covered earlier. And that's going to bring the build icon available, and oh, so that's the building spot. So yeah, we have a little grid, and most of these areas just have really small. This actually is really big compared to the one in Sylvan Glade, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, we can edit now this grid and build in on Sixum, which is the same. Sixum and Sylvan Glade, like the lighting is the same no matter like what time of day you have selected in build mode. So we'll head over to Sylvan Glade so we can see the building spot in there.
La, 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 la,
Breeze
la,
is
la,
practicing
la,
her music.
la.
Okay. So you'll see every time we load, even though I've enabled free build a couple of times, every time we loaded up a new space, we're going to have to re-enter the cheat. Free build mode is enabled, and then we click the build icon, and there we go. So we have our grid. See, this is much smaller than the one on Sixum. So this will work. I'm not entirely sure if the Forgotten Grotto has a space. I guess we could go check that out as well. Why not while we're here? Okay, so as it turns out, we do have a spot in Forgotten Grotto. So you have some new building options if you want to maybe live in this cave or in Sylvan Glade. Of course, you can't set those as your home lots, but you can, you know, travel to them. So, yeah. I hope that this tutorial was helpful for you guys and that you enjoyed it. I'm sorry if there was anything that I glossed over. this is my first attempt at doing a tutorial, and yeah, I just wanted to try and give you some tips and tricks that would be helpful to you. So if there's anything that I left out, feel free to ask me in the comments, and I will be answering my questions the best, answering your questions. I do have some questions, but I'll be answering your questions. Woo! Answer your questions as best I can. So, thanks guys for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave me a like and a comment, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!